Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Barrett and Baxa podcast, coming in with a little music from Rico Monaco right there. Of course, we are very excited. We've been preparing all week for this, Bob. I am Steve Barrett. That's Bob Baxa that you're looking at right on the other side there. And we want to invite you to, or welcome you, I should say, to our podcast, a podcast that we've decided. Really, we've been thinking about it for a long time. What do we want to focus on? This is a podcast where we make fun of politicians. We make fun of newscasters and the news media. We make fun of popular culture. But mostly we make fun of ourselves and make fun of each other during the podcast, right? So that's what we're going to do today. You can expect that for the next half hour, 45 minutes, however long we decide we want to go. Bob, tell them what we've got coming up today. Very exciting.
All right. Coming up on today's show, we have some very important topics, such as, is there a letter C in the word Schmedia, in the media Schmedia tagline for this podcast? Of course, we're going to talk about another instance of Jazzy Jasmine Crockett humiliating herself. Of course, we're going to dive very deeply into Joe Biden on The View. That was hilarious. Really, we could do a whole podcast on that. We have a new segment, very excited about this, a new segment called Florida Man History. This is going to be very exciting. We are going to let you know which foods are Republican foods and which foods are Democrat foods.
I can't wait for
that. Yeah, that's very important. And of course, we're going to finish up with a very important new feature called Things That Annoy Us. So it is a jam-packed BnB Media Schmedia podcast today here at the BnB Radio Network. Is that a thing? Can we be the BnB Radio Network?
Yeah, BnB Radio Network. It will. Yeah, I see. Oh, Trump 2028. What is that?
Yes.
Is that real, Bob? Is that really
is real?
happening?
So this is this shirt. I bought this shirt just to mess with Democrats, which is one of my favorite things to do. And the fact that, I mean, how many talking heads and how many segments, I should say, have there been in the last couple of weeks where people are talking about whether Trump's going to run in 28? Trump is not running in 28. Trump can't run in 28. And the fact that you take him seriously, every single thing he says, you let him troll you. You constantly buy into the dumb shit that he says. He's not running.
People are gullible, Bob. No, I have friends that
Trump's going to run and he's going to change the Constitution.
Well, people believe it. I mean, that it brings me back to something we were talking about earlier in the week. These people, you see them on Dr. Phil, that really think that they're having some relationship online with some actor or something, and they send them all this money.
Yes, or catfish. And that it's similar to, that's slightly different than getting catfished, because catfish is just a normal person. But like on catfish, you'll see a guy and he's like a normal kind of nerdy looking guy. And he's been communicating on the internet, and they showed the picture of the girl and she's like a literal Victoria's Secret model. And it's like, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there.
That he's dating her online.
She doesn't really look like that in person. And then it turns out that not only is it not a Victoria's Secret model, it's not a girl. It's like a gay guy.
It's somebody it's somebody in some foreign country that convinces you.
For all of our nerdy male friends, can I just tell you, girls that look like Victoria's Secret models are not meeting you on the internet.
Nope.
So just assume right off the bat that is not real, and then you won't get catfished.
All right. So we talked about your shirt there. But I've got in the media Schmedia thing. Let's get into it, because that's our new tagline, everyone. This is Barrett and Baxa Media Schmedia. Everything will be about the media, but we're going to do it.
How do we spell it? How do you spell it?
See, I think there should be a C.
I know you do. Here's why I think you're wrong.
Because that's kind of the Jewish way. Isn't that the way the schmeckel? I think schmeckel is
like a schmear. You put a schmear on a bagel. Yeah. That is true. But my theory, and now you're making me rethink it. My theory was that if you make up a word, obviously Schmedia is not a word. So if you make up a word out of thin air, that you should spell it the simplest way possible,
and
that's
not add extra consonants. Consonants. If we can say that word.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So I don't know. Now I'm kind of leaning back towards Schmedia. Since it's such an idiotic, stupid word, why not spell it the stupidest possible way? So maybe you're right. Maybe it does need a C.
Well, the other thing we could do, we could put it
me.
out there for a vote because we always want
true.
people to like and comment. And so leave us a comment, send us an email, barrettandbaxa@gmail.com. Somebody tell us whether or not it should be Schmedia with a C or Schmedia without a C.
On this podcast, just so you know,
if you before we do the graphics, podcast, we need to know.
You're going to get to talk about very, very important things like whether or not the made up stupid ass words that we invent should be spelled one way or another way. These are the kinds of groundbreaking types of topics that you will see here on the Barrett and Baxa podcast. So just so you know what you're going to be getting.
And we're recording this today on Mother's Day. It won't be released till Tuesday, but we'll do, I guess, a belated Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. But I need to clarify some things before we move on with so this week we're gonna introduce another new segment this week, and it's just gonna be a simple interview segment with people that we used to know in the media and people that we think that other journalists and people who consume the media will find interesting. So we've got one of those coming up as well today. But in that interview, I talk about my mother, who is a nudist.
Yes, I know her. I know her very well.
In another episode, I talked about my mother who was a judge.
Right. So very different women. Two very different women. Yes. And I need to clarify this is not I don't have a two-mom relationship where I had no father. They're not lesbians.
So one of them, my mother, who's a judge, is technically my stepmother. She has been since I was about 10 years old. And then my mother, who was a nudist, lives down in Florida. And so just to clarify, because I think they don't want to be confused with each other. I know them both well enough that neither of those moms want to be confused. So
definitely not. But you know what just popped into my head? How about your dad? I mean, I've met Carl, and he married a hippie nudist chick at one point in his life, and then at another point in his life, he married a literal judge. Like, this guy went in two totally different directions.
Well, I think
it's kind of interesting.
I think maybe he regretted the first one. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. But my dad doesn't talk about those kind of personal things a lot. So I try to stay away from it. He seems like
a pretty serious guy.
But I have two wonderful moms. One of them is a judge and one of them is living in a nudist colony down in Florida. But we'll move on. Listen, you can listen to that bonus episode that's going to drop later this week. It'll drop on Thursday. And it's just a nice interview with someone who did the exact same job I did, which was a street reporter. And so we talk about all kinds of things. We will have a clip from that coming up a little bit later as we discuss Elon Musk a little bit.
Cool.
The first thing that we have in terms of clips is one of our favorites, Jazzy Jasmine Crockett.
And we debated we do because we're so freaking professional, we actually have a meeting before the podcast, and we debated whether we would use this, but Jazzy is so good. She is the gift that keeps on giving. So I think everyone likes to hear more from Jazzy.
And this particular clip gives you an insight into what Jazzy understands about law and illegality and crime. Now, does illegality constitute a crime? I think it does. But I don't know. We'll find out from Jazzy Crockett. Yeah. All right, here we go.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime.
Jasmine.
Okay, that's what she said. This guy's going to comment, but we're not going to listen to him. We're going to comment ourselves here. We're finding this one off of TikTok very quickly. But
it's not a crime to enter the country illegally.
Right. There's a law against it, but if you break that law, that's not a criminal thing.
This is a common thing I'm seeing on the left where they are trying to say that entering our country is a civil violation. That's bullshit. It's a crime. It's a federal crime, a criminal offense. Just walking across the border in Texas and doing nothing else, you are now a criminal. You committed a federal crime. There is a statute. It's USC, whatever. I don't know the number of the freaking statute, but you can look it up. It's a crime. It's not a civil offense like a speeding ticket.
But Bob,
it's a criminal offense.
But Bob, there are so many people out there in the United States that really think like they've been convinced that it's just some administrative thing, that it's just an undocumented situation. You didn't get your car registration in the mail yet, but your car is registered if you check your computer officer. That's not the thing. They're not in the computer system as a legal immigrant and they just don't happen to have the paperwork with them at the time. No, they have crossed the border illegally, committed a crime, and therefore they can be deported and should be deported.
And I always hear they're just looking for a better life. Okay, great. I mean, so by that logic, if you come home and there's a guy sleeping on your couch and he says, "Hey, I used to sleep outside at the park, but I'm just looking for a better life here on your couch." So that should be fine, right? I mean, I understand. I feel bad for these people. Yes, their country sucks and it's better here, but we can't take every single person. So that means some people have
because
to
then
be
our
turned
country
away.
would suck too, because what these
Right.
people do is
We're
they bring
well
their
on the way.
politics. They bring their politics. This is one of the
they
things that's happened in Minneapolis. We have, we were talking earlier, this big Somali population that has come and they've decided they want to make their own laws. Like some of these police officers won't even go in those neighborhoods because they've just kind of said, oh, we're just going to let them police themselves.
It's a no-go zone.
That should not be happening in this country.
And I mean, if there's more Somalis, I think, in Minnesota now than there are in Somalia, or I saw some statistic. There's like almost as many, and they're bringing all their third world crap with them to Minnesota, and it's just incredibly corrupt. And like, why would we want third worlders to come in here
and bring the third world with them?
The third world with them. Zero interest in assimilating. Zero interest in making our country better, and they just want to stay. They just want to be around nothing but Somalis. Like, stay in Somalia. There's plenty of Somalis there.
Yeah. All right, let's clank the Somalis.
All right, do it.
All right, next up is this new segment that we're going to kind of come up with. Bob and I have always wanted to interview other people that we find fascinating, and we've got a long list of them. We always call out to Bob Jordan because we want Bob Jordan to come on it sometimes.
Yeah, we'll have him at some point.
There are a lot of other people that have watched what we like to talk about, the decline of the media. And so I talked to this guy for many years, I was a street reporter. I was doing, like kind of top story, the crime or the houses that burned down, the car chases and things like that in the Orlando market down in Florida. Meanwhile, this guy that I interviewed this week was in Tampa doing some of the same things. And he doesn't necessarily have the same politics as we have. And we had a great conversation. It wasn't necessarily about politics, but it was about bias in the media. And while he might lean a little bit to the left and I lean a little bit to the right, we both agreed that journalists have lost the ability to take that bias out of their reporting and just report the facts. One of the interesting things about this guy is he was one of the earliest adopters of Peter Bernard was one of the earliest adopters of electric vehicles. So he bought a Tesla when no one was buying Teslas. And he became a huge fan of Tesla, the brand Tesla. Some years later, he decided he didn't necessarily agree with some of the things that Elon Musk was doing, but he still loved the Tesla brand. So I wanted to ask him, as we came forward into the Trump era, Elon Musk becomes the leader and the creator of Doge and starts to pick apart the government spending, what he thought of that. And he doesn't want Elon Musk doing Doge, but he doesn't want him doing it for a very different reason than you or I would think. And I want to hear, this is kind of a fascinating, maybe a 90-second clip of an interesting thing. And on the other side, we're going to talk about Elon Musk, and we're going to talk about what should Elon Musk be doing. So let's play this little clip. And I don't want this to be a political thing, but I want to ask you, what is your feeling on now that Tesla has been directly connected to him, and now the Tesla brand has become sort of this evil thing?
It's been tarnished. And it disturbs me. I gave a lecture. I'm also on the board of the Villages Tesla Club, and I gave a speech, a talk to our members. And that was the subject of it. Like, are you worried about your Tesla getting vandalized if you go out of town? Now, here in the Villages, it's pretty right wing, and I don't think people are going to be vandalizing my car. But in other places, are you worried? And I thought about bringing my 9mm in the car when I travel certain places. So it's scary. I don't like the fact that Tesla or Elon has lost, at least not has 100% focus on the car. Now, lately, he's stated that he's going to reduce his affiliation with Doge and maybe just do it a couple of days a week. I'm hoping he gets back to the business of innovation. SpaceX, Unbelievable. What a company. He's NASA couldn't do it. Elon Musk did. Electric cars. Everyone's now following in Tesla's footsteps. The first mass-produced Tesla was in like 2011 or 2012, and they were selling cars like gangbusters. Now their stock is down 72%. Sales are plummeting worldwide, Spain, England, in revolt to some of the things that Elon Musk has done. I am a fan of his, as I would be Thomas Edison or Harvey Firestone or some of the other people that are out there, but I am concerned that he's lost sight. I want him to laser focus on Tesla and innovation.
Okay, Bob. So
interesting.
That he doesn't dislike him doing what he's doing. What Peter's point was that why do we have the smartest guy on the planet checking the books of the federal government? How did we get to the point where we need Elon Musk to look over the books? He should be inventing rockets. He should be inventing robots. He should be giving us hands-free cars and automated taxis. I mean, isn't that a good point, though?
Very good point. I thought in the beginning, I thought it was going to be Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy, and then Vivek just kind of disappeared, I guess, because he was running for, I think, governor of Ohio. So he got out of the whole Doge thing, and it was strictly Elon. I don't know. I feel like Elon kind of destroyed the Tesla brand because the main people buying Teslas were libs, and now libs hate Teslas, and they think it means they call them swastika cars and stuff. So I'm not sure. I would never, if you gave me a free Tesla, I would absolutely immediately sell it. I have zero interest in driving an electric car. Zero. I just am not interested. I will drive gas cars for the next 20 years until I'm dead. I'm not switching to electric.
Is it just in boycott and revolt?
No, I just think the concept, I just don't see the point of driving an electric car. I don't think it's that much better for the environment. I mean, all the mining equipment all uses diesel fuel. Yeah. The mining taking place in Africa, using African slave children to mine cobalt. There's so many stories that say you have to drive your Tesla for like 8 years before you finally start going into the positive on like being better for the environment. And I don't have
your
all
carbon footprint.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I don't have all the figures right, in my head, but
and then there's all these questions about how do you dispose of these things? How do you dispose of the batteries and all of that? Even the windmill power, the wind power, those things, nobody knows how to dispose of it. It's one of the issues with nuclear power, really.
Yeah, she let me drive hers once, and I didn't like the way it's like when you drive a golf cart, and like as soon as you take your foot off the gas, like you have to be accelerating the whole time. And as soon as you take your foot off the gas, it like really slows down. And I guess you could get used to that. I don't know. I wasn't into it. Again, I don't know what happens if you're stuck in traffic for hours. Like what happens there? And plus, I just don't think it's that much better for the environment. I don't know. It's not my thing. I'm not into electric vehicles. Give me a gas powered vehicle. I think it's a fringe product for a long time to come, but who knows? What do I know? Some idiot on a podcast. Maybe I'll be wrong. Who knows?
All right. Well, before we clank that one, though, I just want to say, this interview is going to be good. And one of the things that I talked to him about, STDs in the villages.
Oh yeah,
Peter explains it all for us. So we're gonna drop that Barrett and Backs Up bonus episode. This is not a regular.
Everyone
episode.
knows the Villages is a retirement community, a gigantic, probably the biggest one in the world. Yeah, like 100,000 people in a retirement community, and
spans 3 counties.
Yeah, would you call that North Florida or
it's Central Florida?
Central. Yeah, it's north of Orlando. And
south of Ocala and Gainesville,
right? And apparently STDs are rampant because I think a lot of these people, when they were young, they were having sex before there was a lot of STDs, and now they're divorced or their spouse died, and they're back in the single dating world, and they're not being careful with using condoms. So apparently they have a major problem in the Villages.
Yeah.
So. It's a nice image to think about old people having sex.
Yeah, well, now we can clank it on that image. All right, next topic up is something that just recently happened, and it's a good way to get into a new segment that we want to do. Bob and I spent many, many years covering news in Orlando, Florida, and
Yes.
everybody knows that Florida is the center of the news universe. If it happened, some part of it at least happened in the state of Florida, which sort of is how the term was coined, Florida Man, because Florida
Right.
Man always seems to be involved in everything. So we're going to do something called Florida Man History every once in a while, where we go back and we look at stories. We kind of did it with Casey Anthony in one
Right.
situation, but now we're going to talk about something that both of us remember. Just in the last week, a couple of guys involved with some heinous murders. And I don't even want to throw these guys' names out there because they're just not worth it. But two men involved in something called the Xbox murders.
Yes.
And the Xbox murders were four different people brutally murdering six people over what amounts to an Xbox.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy, but it's really true. I mean, you can look it up. It's a very famous case in Central Florida.
it was a brutal, brutal baseball bat bludgeoning that involved these six people that lived at a house in Deltona, Florida. Not Daytona, but Deltona. It's kind of outside of Daytona.
Much more
And
redneck.
yeah, it's more redneck than even Daytona, which is pretty redneck. Like there's like we say that there's Florida Man, but there's also a subset of Florida Man that gets even worse, and that's Volusia County Man.
Yes. You know you're bad when you're a less classy version of Daytona. That's when you know your town is not so good. But we love people in Deltona, but let's face it, Deltona is not the French Riviera. I think we can all agree.
But this story was when I was covering this, one of the first stories that I started covering when I got to Orlando as a television reporter. You were already there, and you were spending a lot of time over this house in a helicopter. We'll get to that in a second, but I'll explain why it's called the Xbox murders, because what happened was a couple of the suspects in this case were squatting in a house. And this girl comes over to check on her grandparents' house in Deltona. And the house is occupied by some people, and they had set up television. I think they'd hooked up power and cable and had an Xbox and other things that they were using in this
They were
house.
living there.
So the sheriff's office comes along, kicks them out, and these guys got so angry with this granddaughter who had called them out on their squatting that they went and hunted her down, because when they moved out, they failed to take an Xbox and some clothing and things like that. So they were angry. They wanted the Xbox back. So when they showed up at this granddaughter's house where she and her roommates lived, they beat everyone in the house to death with baseball bats, including the dog, over
that's right. I
the
forgot about that.
Xbox and the other items. That's why it's called the Xbox murders. It was so just recently. So Florida wiped out the death penalty for people who had not been unanimously recommended for the death penalty by a jury. So Florida went back because Florida never backs down. So Florida goes back, changes the law so that by law you can have a non-unanimous jury that basically recommends the death penalty. So these guys have had the death penalty recommended for them for the second time. But Bob, this was such a huge story that you make a joke about how much jet fuel and helicopter fuel was wasted just getting pictures of this house.
It's a perfect example of how TV news has died. And because looking back, when you think about the amount of time, excuse me, I personally spent hovering in Metro Traffic's helicopter, which is a piston helicopter. In other words, it has a piston engine. It's not a jet engine, and it uses regular gas. But Channel 9 had a jet helicopter, as did all the other stations. And we would all take off. We would go to Deltona, and then we would just all circle in a circle for hours, taking pictures of a house that, I mean, the bodies were gone. The guys were in jail. They had been arrested. There was nothing to see. And yet every single newscast, they wanted a live aerial shot of the house. And it must have been tens upon tens of thousands of dollars. Forget about the salary of the photog and my salary and,
The pilot.
Greg Beck's salary and the other pilots. Forget about that. just the fuel that, because I can remember we would circle, we would all the pilots would talk to each other. I'm going to set up here, you're there, you're behind me, and you're behind him. And now we'll all slowly circle so we can get different angles. And then they would coordinate. All right, we're all going to stop here for 10 minutes. Then we're going to all slowly circle. And we would do that for 2 hours until all of our fuel was gone. And then once we all needed to refuel, we all went to the Sanford airport, landed, got a snack, all got refueled, took off, went back to Deltona, and did it again for 2 more hours. And again and again. I spent entire Saturdays.
Weeks and weeks.
Weeks.
I mean, it might have been gone into
dumb.
months that was happening. And then what would happen to the reporters is you'd go gather your story on the ground, and then they'd say, okay, we're going to put you up live in the helicopter. So then you'd go up in the helicopter, and you'd be as if there was some news that you could gather from the hell. What are you going to do? Open the window and shout down to the police down below? Like, hey, did you find anything new down there?
Yeah, it was, but everyone did it. And looking back, it's just such a stupid waste of money. And, not now.
That's how much money they were making back then. They were just making so much money in these local television stations.
They were looking for ways to burn it.
Ways to burn it, right? You don't want to run out. You don't want to come in under budget, or the company would cut you off. So you just no. And I remember that you had a helicopter budget and a fuel budget, so they would give it to you. And that particular version of Florida Man, the Xbox murders, killed so much jet fuel and wasted. Man, what kind of carbon footprint? Speaking of carbon footprints, man, that is a hell of a carbon footprint right there.
Crazy.
All right, so that's what we're going to do for Florida Man history. We'll come up with some of these great stories. Some of them are just unbelievable, but 6 people dying over an Xbox actually happened in it was about 2004 in good old Deltona, Florida. All right, clanking that one. Sleepy Joe's what we're going to next. Sleepy Joe got out of bed and he went to The View this week.
He is the best. God bless him. Do the Democrats want Joe Biden out? I mean, I've heard a lot of people, the Obama, they're called the Pod Bros from Pod Save America. Which we are better than them, and we will eventually have a bigger audience. But right now, they have a little bit bigger audience. But they were pissed about Joe Biden being on The View. And you can see why, because every time this guy opens his mouth, he reminds everyone that he is fully senile and that he should, and they were going to run this guy for president again.
Again,
it's unbelievable.
Had he not dropped out, he would have been the guy. And in this interview, he actually suggests that he would have beat. This is where it gets all confusing, because he suggests that he would have beat Trump, but yet Kamala couldn't do it. But yet he handed the reins to Kamala.
So many things make no sense in this interview. So we're going to watch some clips. They're very funny.
Yeah. In the first clip, he's going to talk about how he has decided that the reason that she did not win is because
racism.
Racism and sexism. So let's have a listen to this clip from The View.
Why do you think the vice president lost, and were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president was the most qualified person to be president. She is. She's qualified to be president of the United States of America. But I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman. She's this. She's that. I mean, it really. I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country, and a woman of mixed race.
Yeah.
They're so delusional. Your candidate was horrible, all right? Kamala Harris is horrible. She's unlikable. She seems very, very stupid. She is not, she has zero charisma. She cackles inappropriately at stuff that's not even funny. She just
word salads everywhere.
Word salads. She's a terrible candidate who happens to be a black woman.
And a terrible candidate who has terrible policies. Or no policies at all, really.
There was no
policies to present.
No, she's horrible. It's got nothing to do. I mean, this is not new, but she's got nothing to do with race, nothing to do with her genitalia and her melanin level. I mean, seriously, the Democrats are so delusional, and this is why they're in so much trouble, because they just refuse to accept that their policies suck. And they really do think we just didn't explain our great policies well enough. We just need to explain them better.
But
no, your problem is you explained them too good.
So a little bit after that, we won't play this clip, but Biden goes on, and he makes a good point, what I think is a good point, that in that same election, during that same period of time, liberal, and the way he put it, liberal democracies suffered throughout the world in elections. And I don't want to say liberal democracies. I just want to say liberals alone suffered all year long, and there was backlash. Sure, things have turned around in Canada, but that's Canada. But that was a good point that he made, and then he immediately, for that liberal loss or that backlash against liberals, he blamed COVID.
Right.
Which is the easiest thing in the world.
Bizarre too.
COVID I heard somebody say, well, maybe it did have to do because
she what?
Well, COVID, I think, proved to everyone how wrong liberals could be, because they demanded that we wore the masks, and we couldn't go to funerals, and we couldn't go to church, and we couldn't go to school, and all of that. And I think that is part of the backlash. But certainly the liberal policies are also a huge part of that backlash, even a bigger policy, bigger thing than COVID was.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Someone said that Kamala didn't have enough time, that the problem, she had too much time. Because the more she talked, the more people hated her. So it would have been better if they had inserted her like one day before the election. That would have been best for them. And then we would have not been able to hear her talk at all. If they had put her in 6 months sooner, she would have lost by more, because she's really, really unlikable. And
because there was that little bump right when they said, oh, it's going to be her. There was a little bit of a bump there, and she did have a poll surge, but that poll surge went away very quickly. All right. So the next one we are going to, this is his response to Trump. And let me find this one for you, and we'll move from there.
When you're obsessed with somebody, you have to look in yourself and say, what is going on here? And at his Trump's cabinet meeting last week, your name was invoked 52 times, and he blamed you for the economic mess that his tariffs are causing. Why is he so fixated on you and blaming you for everything?
I beat him.
But now listen where he goes.
And that's it. He's just
I'm used to dealing with bullies.
Well, Mr. President, when you announced that you wouldn't be seeking re-election, only 28% of the country thought that the country was on the right track. Now, you are understandably very proud of many achievements in your administration, but do you take any responsibility for not hearing the concerns of voters on the border security or cost of living sooner? And do you take any responsibility for Trump's re-election?
Yes, I do, because, look, I was in charge and he won. So, I take responsibility.
So he back and forth. Boy, which one is it? Did he beat him or didn't he beat him?
I know. He's so delusional. When you look at his face, he's so blank, man. He really looks like he's not there. I mean, it's hilarious. And there's a section where it's like, Mr. President, are you capable of answering questions yourself? And Dr. Jill's like, I'll take this one. He is totally capable. He is so capable. You have no idea how capable he is. Like, Jill had to jump in so many times, man. It was very funny.
Well, let's find one of those times right now.
Okay, good.
Mr. President, since you left office, there have been a number of books that have come out, deeply sourced from Democratic sources, that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities. In the final year of your presidency, what is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that. Number one. Number
Except
two,
this.
Wait, nothing to sustain that? What the hell are you talking about?
Circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started. Not since the Civil War. We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying. And we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work, and we got it done. And one of the things and Alyssa,
one of the things I think is that The
Jill
people
for
who
the
wrote
save.
those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day.
Enough of this.
right,
So twice
I have
in
two
that
things.
answer, Bob, twice
Yes.
he stopped, completely lost track of his
Yes.
of what he was saying, and had to do one of those. Well, I'm not
anyway.
going to get into that. I'm
Right.
not going to.
That- this
I
is-
probably shouldn't say that. That's
Right.
what he says
And it's
when he
like, dude,
forgets what he's saying.
yes,
he says,
you're
"I
so full
probably
of
shouldn't
shit."
say that."
He's acting like he's censoring because he maybe
Yes.
is going to say something bad. Dude, fuck you. You're so full of crap. He does that where he you're exactly right. He'll be like, and then the other thing that happened after that, well, I probably shouldn't go into that. And then Jill jumps in. And if you remember, the whole thing is to talk about whether he has mental acuity. And
Right.
Jill has to save him multiple times. That's number one. Number two, she said those people weren't in the White House. Actually, they were.
They were.
There is Ron Klain. He's
Credible
on record.
sources.
Yeah. There's sources that were there. So she says, it's not like I was hiding Joe. You were hiding Joe.
Yes.
It's well known that they called the lid by 2:00 every day. There were many days.
There
where
is
we
no
never
way
saw
he
him.
was taking phone calls at night while she was laying in
Ever.
bed reading a book. That
Right,
did not
which was
happen.
another
Jill.
lie she
and
told.
this is
That
this
did
is
not
the
happen.
part that makes me the maddest. Why does she keep perpetuating this absolute lie that everyone knows is a lie? I guess they're trying to save their legacy, but they're doing serious damage to the Democrats because now, we know you were lying the whole time. And if you continue to lie about it, I don't think they can recover if they don't
making it
fess
worse.
up and say, okay, we need some new blood here and we need some people in this party that were not lying about Joe Biden's cognitive situation.
This is another thing. This is not a small thing. My father was losing his marbles towards the end. And there were plenty of days where my mother would not allow family members to visit him because she felt that he wasn't doing well that day. So she was like the guard at the gate. She would have, to put him on a TV show, one of the hardest things you could possibly do with cameras and pressure and all the pressure of answering questions. Why? Dr. Jill, so-called doctor, she's not a doctor. She is one of the most evil women in the history of planet Earth. She is evil. To put your senile husband on TV where he's going to repeatedly embarrass himself, humiliate himself. He can't finish his thought.
Cruel.
It's so cruel. Like, Jill, what is wrong with you? Jesus Christ. Dr. Jill needs to get Joe to an actual doctor because he's got a major problem.
Yeah. I
crazy. She's evil.
Enough of Joe Biden. Democrats just have to be at this point just disgusted by all
Wanting
of
him to
this.
shut up.
And you know what I want in one of these books that's supposed to be coming out this week? So we'll be talking about these books probably on the next episode. But in one of these books, I want to find out who is in the Easter Bunny suit.
Oh yeah, that might
somebody
have been Dr.
ever going to
Jill or
disclose?
Hunter.
It could have been. Yeah, it could have been. I thought it was Dr. Jill.
He was
Just
doing
the way,
blow in
just
the
the
suit.
way they went.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
nope. Don't talk to the media at the
Right.
Easter
That
Easter
was good.
egg
That was
hunt.
good.
So, all right, clank that one, and we're going to move on to Bernie. All right, so Bernie is flying around on the Fighting Oligarchy tour. I still think it's the best
In a
concert
private
going
jet.
out there. Like, if they came to my town, I would actually go just to see what it was like. It's kind of like a liberal going to a Trump rally to see what happens.
Right. See what
I'd like to
happens.
go to the Fighting Oligarchy tour. But he was questioned by Fox News. Brett Baer asked him about, your fighting oligarchy, which for people, a lot of people still say, I don't know what that means. I mean, to me, it basically means rich people telling politicians what to do and kind of running government that way.
Yeah.
But so Bernie's fighting against rich people, which he's always done, but he's flying around on private jets to do it. And Brett Baer called him out, and we're going to listen to what Bernie, how he kind of tried to write this off as an okay thing to do.
Okay.
Alyssa Slotkin, senator from Michigan, she said you shouldn't be using oligarch. It's over people's head. You've gotten criticized from other people. Free Beacon says Bernie Sanders spent $221,000 on private jets fighting the oligarchy tour, paid for by friends of Bernie Sanders. That you've spent millions of dollars in campaign funds on private jet travel over the years. How do you push back on both of those things?
When's the last time you saw Donald Trump during a campaign mode at National Airport?
No. It doesn't. But he's also not fighting the oligarchy.
No. You run a campaign and you do 3 or 4 or 5 rallies in a week. The only way you can get around to talk to 30,000 people. Think I'm going to be sitting on a waiting line at United, waiting, 30,000 people are waiting? That's the only way you can get around. No.
It is not the only way you can get around.
It's not the only way, Bernie. You could take a Greyhound bus. You could Greyhound bus from one city to another if you wanted to, but you don't want to. And you could absolutely sit your stupid, decrepit old ass at United in the terminal like everyone else has to do. He just said, you think I'm going to do 3 rallies a week? Like what? You fly?
There are business people that fly every day to a different city to make a presentation, and they get up early, they hop on a plane. And if it means that much to you, Bernie, and he's trying to compare himself here to Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump's not the one out there complaining about rich people. Donald Trump's not the one out there complaining about the environment and not to have a carbon footprint and all of this.
And Donald Trump has a plane with his name on it that he had before he got into politics. Donald Trump is not using political contributions to fly private. Bernie Sanders is taking in money from little $20 donations from students who want to fight the oligarchy, and he's using that money to fly on private jets. You could do a rally on Monday. Tuesday could be a travel day. A rally on Wednesday. Thursday's a travel day. Friday a rally, and on the weekend, on Saturday, you fly commercial back to Washington. Could be easily done. And the tone of voice, do you think I'm going to be sitting in a terminal with the little smelly people? Like,
no, because he's part of the oligarchy.
They hate their own viewers. He really just said out loud, basically, he said the quiet part out loud. Do you think I'm going to sit with these people
with these commoners?
These common people?
That aren't millionaires themselves?
Right.
Like, I have millions of dollars to spend. Why wouldn't I spend it on private jets?
We need to come up with the douchebaggery of the week. And that's my nomination for douchebaggery of the week was right there. Bernie Sanders saying, how else am he literally said, how else am I supposed to get there if I don't fly private? Like, what are you talking about?
And it's just, it goes back to that thing that you say, that anything that Trump does, the left is going to decide that is wrong. No matter what he does, if he drinks water, like something's wrong with water and we should be drinking Gatorade.
Correct.
Anything. And I don't think it started with Trump. I think it started many years ago. I mean, look at what they did to John McCain. I mean, they treated John, in the end, the liberals treated John McCain like he was like the hero of the freaking American West.
Because he disliked Trump. As soon as you dislike Trump, then you become a Republican they like. But before that, they hated him.
And they hated Mitt Romney.
Right.
And they hated George W. Bush. And so you found this week an example of something they did to George W. Bush, where it's one of those things where he can do no wrong. And this was in the
no right. He can do no right.
Do no right. Yeah, he can do no right. And so they had to point out something ridiculous that was wrong. This is just part of an article from McClatchy. From 2007, and you pointed it out. We thought it was so amazing that we threw it in the show because it's an example of how even all the way back to George W. Bush, they try and make it like, oh, Trump's the problem, not the Republicans. No, it's the Republicans. And no matter who is leading the Republicans, you are going to demonize them. So
the media hates that person no matter who it is.
This is that article as the Iraq war is starting to wind down and fewer and fewer people are dying. The McClatchy did an article, and I'm going to quote the first 2 lines of this article, and it's about how they're complaining that not enough people are dying in Iraq anymore. Here's the article.
All right.
Dateline Najaf, Iraq. What's believed to be the world's largest cemetery where Shiite Muslims aspire to be buried and millions already have been. Business isn't good. A drop in violence around Iraq has cut burials in the huge Wadi al-Salam cemetery here by at least 1/3 in the past 6 months. And that's cut the pay of thousands of workers who make their living digging graves, washing corpses, or selling burial shrouds.
Right.
So
Less people are dying, and the media said, how do we spin this in a negative way against George W. Bush? I know. Their cemetery workers are out of work. That's
right. We're laying
what
off people at the cemetery because
Right.
George W. Bush is not killing more people
Right.
in Iraq.
They're such
But it's a perfect
scumbags.
example. So if you fast forward to today, it's still happening almost 20 years later. They're still doing the exact same thing. Anything that Trump does or a Republican does, it's bad.
It's bad automatically. And everything is put through, for our news media, everything is put through the lens. How can we make the Democrat look good? How do we make the Republican look bad? Less people are dying. What do? I know. We say cemetery workers are suffering.
Being laid off.
If Trump cured cancer, and everyone knows this is true, if Trump cured cancer tomorrow, they would find some oncologist who's now out of work,
Right.
and they would do a sad with like sad
How
music.
he can't pay his mortgage.
He can't pay his mortgage, and his kids can't get braces. And
Yep.
they would talk about the poor cancer doctors who are out of work now because the evil Donald Trump cured cancer. You know I'm right.
Yeah,
That would
it
happen.
absolutely would happen. Yes.
Absolutely happen. All right, and now it's time for another new feature here on the Barrett and Baxa podcast, which is things that annoy us. And there are
a lot of those.
lot of those, because I'm always irritated about something. But the first one is Steve. So go ahead and take that first one, Steve. What annoys you?
The one that annoys me is people who are in their 40s or so and still think that their birthday is a big fucking deal. Like they want a birthday card, they want a birthday party, they want to go out for drinks on their birthday, they want everyone to wish them happy birthday.
Right. What is that about? What you did nothing except not die this year. Like, it's so dumb.
Okay,
what are you even commemorating? The day your mother gave birth to you? Like, who cares?
Right.
How is it different than any other day?
So we do have these, the big, like, as far as I'm concerned, forget your birthday after you're 12. What are you, 12? You're 12 years old. You need some candles or something.
It's for
so
children.
then you have your big birthdays. One of them is going to be 18 years old. Okay, I get it.
All right.
21, you can drink, go out and party. 25, that's cool.
And I say even at that point, it's already getting lame. And certainly anything past that, I say past 21. 21's the last one to be celebrating. Anything past that. Now, there's a different thing, because there is a thing where, like, if your wife wants to make a big deal out of your birthday and you're like, you do it because it'll make her happy, that's one thing. This is what Steve is talking about is totally different. And I know a guy, he's in my best girl's family. This guy's in his 50s. This guy demands that his wife throw a 3-day celebration. She has to have like multiple days of special, like there has to be presents on one day. The next day there has to be a special dinner. There has to be a special brunch, like on the Sunday. People have to be calling in regularly. She has to set up like people calling in. And this is all real. And this guy will go into like a huge tantrum, and he'll be like moping and sullen for weeks if she drops the ball at all on this birthday celebration. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
And you just want to say, what are you're 12 years old? This is your 12th birthday or something?
Yeah.
No, I know a woman who she doesn't even have kids of her own. She wants her stepchildren to remember her birthday, give her birthday presents, celebrate her birthday in multiple ways. She wants all of her friends to bring her a present. It's just ridiculous. And I don't, where do you get that from? I mean, that you're so full of yourself.
Narcissism. Yeah. Probably, right? You just want everything to be about you. So, all right. Yeah. Here's mine.
Okay.
Mine is small talk in unapproved situations. Let me explain. If I am going to be attending, let's say, a cocktail party with my best girl, her work is having a cocktail party, I know ahead of time I'm going to arrive at this place. There's going to be small talk with people I don't know. I can get myself psyched up. I can prepare myself, because I hate small talk, but okay, it's a cocktail party. It's her coworkers. I'm going to have to stand there, talk to some guy I don't like. I'm going to have to pretend to be nice. I get it. And I can do that. I will not do small talk, like surprise small talk. And what that is you're walking down the aisle at the supermarket. All right. You come around the aisle and boom, there's Sally, your friend from work. Okay. If it's me, I go, hey, Sally. Oh my God, it's so great to see you. Awesome. Oh, I see you're buying burgers. Cool. Well, have fun. All right. We'll see you at work on Monday. Bye. It's a 10-second thing. My best girl will stand there and talk to Sally 20, 30, 50. There's no limit to the amount of time that she will stand there in the supermarket blocking other people. So people have to go around them now because her and Sally are standing doing a full conversation unexpected in the supermarket. I cannot have that. So the unapproved small talk is a major pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, the thing that I get with small talk is that my wife is one of these people that for some reason people start telling her things that are completely inappropriate and they don't know. They don't know her well enough to be saying to her, I think my husband might be gay or something. Like it's something so off the wall. And this has happened. She actually has had that particular situation happen. And it's someone that she doesn't know at all. Like she's known them for or she met them once before at a bar, like one time through another friend. And suddenly like their deepest, darkest secrets. And I don't know what it is about her. She just attracts all of these people.
She's nice. I do think she's a nice person. Maybe people just feel she's nice. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
Wait a second. There was one more that you left out. The people who are way too into marijuana.
Oh yeah,
bug you.
I do know a guy like this. So I know a guy who's he loves marijuana and he posts about it constantly, like daily. He's posting about how much he loves weed, and it's like, all right, we get it, you love weed, but these are the guys that like. They talk about what strain of weed and they'll I got an indica that was crossbred with a red eye Susan. They have all these stupid ass names for like their strain of
and then
weed
they think that certain strains of weed are good for something different. Like when I read a book, I smoke this one over here. And when I go to a concert, I use this gummy over here.
And here's the thing about weed. I used to smoke a ton of weed. Obviously, I don't do drugs anymore, but I've smoked many times. I've smoked weed. And once you take the first hit, it's not like a wine tasting where you literally spit the wine. I mean, that's the whole point of the wine tasting.
Yeah.
You take a sip in your mouth and you spit it out because otherwise you would get drunk. Well, you can't spit out the weed. Once you take one hit of weed, you're high off your ass. And the rest doesn't
matter. So what about these people who sit around, they just take bong tokes all day long. They keep their bong out like by their couch and everything. And
I'm really against
because once you get stoned, you're stoned. It's not like you're going to get more stoned.
No, I don't think there's any further.
It's not like it's going to last. I mean, it lasts a long time anyway, so it's not like it's going to last a lot longer.
Have you gotten this thing where it happens to me in my truck all the time, where I'm driving down the highway and all of a sudden I will get a blast of weed smell.
Yes.
And it clearly was because I'm doing like the air coming in from the outside through my vent.
Yeah.
And clearly somebody blew out a giant hit in front of me. And
wafts
we've all
right
seen
into your
weed
car.
smokes and it just hits my truck. And all of a sudden I get the smell of weed in my face.
Yeah.
That's annoying. And it's annoying how every city now just reeks of York
New York City.
I think I'm against the legalization of pot. I really am.
New York City, Manhattan. If you've been to Manhattan lately,
it's unbelievable.
It's just the whole town the whole city just smells like marijuana.
Let's de-legalize marijuana and
because it was more fun when it was kind of illegal.
Yeah,
and you were doing something risky. Now there's no risk in it.
No, and
it's just
too
like
many people are walking around high. Let's stop. It's not good for you. It's bad for your lungs. Kids, don't smoke pot. We'll end with a public service announcement. All children that are watching the BnB, don't smoke pot, don't do drugs. They're very bad for you.
Yes. There you go.
Service. All right.
So as we come to a close, the last thing we wanted to talk about was this article that protein is now a right-wing
that's right. We forgot about that.
food. So we thought about we were talking and we think maybe we can start dividing foods at this point into liberal and conservative. Like kale would be a liberal food, right?
No doubt. Yeah.
Regular iceberg lettuce, I think, has to be like a right-wing food.
All right,
like
that's right. Steak is right-wing. We know steak is
we're
right-wing.
keeping steak, right? We're keeping
but what's
steak on the right.
like a lane, like what's like a lame food that would be for liberals?
Turkey could be for
that could be a liberal
liberals.
food.
We could give
It might
them
be a
turkey,
liberal food.
but do we keep chicken or do
I
all
think
the
we keep
poultries?
chicken.
Maybe
I don't know. This is very
that's
hard.
tough because you could put the poultries over here and then
poultries.
we'll give
duck. No, duck is liberal. That's liberal.
Duck.
That the liberals get duck because I don't want duck. They get duck.
And the vegetables, I mean, there are a lot of vegetables that I like, but I mean, I would give
vegetables.
cauliflower to them.
I'm almost ready to just give liberals all the vegetables and not even have any. Potatoes, my best girl does love potatoes. I'm not a big potato guy, but I'm going to take the potatoes for the conservatives. You know, it's very good. It's called Israeli couscous. Very, very good. I'm taking the Israeli couscous, also known as pearl couscous. It's just little balls.
The Israelis are coming to the right anyway.
Right.
So
we do love Israel on this show, so I'm taking the Israeli couscous. So there you go. Foods are now liberal and conservative.
Well, I'm going to talk to my wife. I'm going to have her make sure that on the list it's only the conservatives now.
Right.
But maybe since I claim I'm an independent, maybe I can just eat
whatever
everything
you want. Yeah,
Okay,
I'd say
good.
so. Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that's it for the Barrett and Baxa today. And we obviously hope that you tell your friends about us and you like us, you comment, you subscribe, because our viewership is growing. As we said last week, we finally burst onto the scene in Russia.
Yes, we did.
So they are celebrating us there. And we hope you're celebrating us at home and enjoying what you hear. And we'll be back for another one.
All right. See you guys.